Hey, what's up, Josh? It's Giovanni. To everybody who's watching this video on my channel, my name is Giovanni, and my nickname's Gypsy. You can call me whatever you want. But I'm going to start doing a paranormal channel, and I'm going to start telling my ghost stories. I've been dealing with the paranormal, poltergeist, and phenomena type activity since I was 4 years old. I'm 41 now. I have hundreds of paranormal stories, and I'm just going to start telling my stories. I work as a truck driver, so I got a lot of time on my hands. So this is a story I have. It's kind of a recent story. It happened a few years ago. I was living with my family up on 45 acres out in the middle of nowhere, like in the backwoods, up in Shasta County. That's like Northern California. And I was living there with my wife at the time, my son. He was like 5 years old at the time, and we had just brought my little baby girl home from the hospital. Anyways, we lived there for 2 years. It was a beautiful house. It was a 2-bedroom, two bath house, and it was really nice. And it was on 40-something acres. It was out in the middle of nowhere. We had trees all around us, a lot of vegetation, and nothing, like, I would always feel the presence of something, and I would have the 3 a.m. witching hour wake-ups all the time. But nothing serious. Like, I never had like a bad vibe like I had felt in the past from living in places where people had committed suicide and just dealing with bad ghosts and poltergeists and stuff like that. But so like after a year and a half of living at this house, as I mentioned, I was having 3 a.m. wake-ups all the time. And at the beginning, I almost thought it was like somebody maybe breaking in the house or somebody was trespassing on the property, but we were out in the middle of nowhere. And so every time I would have these 3 a.m. wake-ups, and I'd have the feeling of a presence, like a ghost or maybe even a human trying to break in or walking around the property, I would get up and do security checks because we lived out in the middle of nowhere. And I had my son and my baby daughter and my wife there. So once I realized after a few months that, okay, it's nobody breaking in. Like, so the vibe, the feeling I get when I wake up, you know, exactly like 2:58 or 3:05, you know, the 3 a.m. witching hour wake-ups, I'm like, it's nobody breaking in. So I figured, okay, there's a ghost. There's a ghost, and he's making his presence known. He or she's making his presence known. So I don't know, after about a year or something, I started to get these 3 a.m. wake-ups, but I was being woken up by like sounds, like loud crashing sounds. Like one night, I was laying there sleeping, and I slept in a separate bedroom from my wife because she slept with the babies. And I would wake up at weird hours of the night, and she didn't want me waking them up, so I had my own bedroom. And I had this plastic table. Next to my bed, and like one night I'm sleeping, and I hear this like loud, like that loud, bam, like right on the table, and I jump up. I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, it sounded like somebody took a book and like threw it on this table. It was like this far from my head, and it was like, I remember it was like 3:05 a.m. and I'm like, oh man, I was like, this ghost is starting to mess with me, you know? And I've had this happen throughout my life. I attract ghosts. And I believe ghosts are spirits that haven't transitioned. And whatever kind of person that ghost was like in real life, that's how they are as a ghost. And I've been dealing with a lot of bad ghosts, which were probably bad people in real life. So I figured, okay, I'm dealing with a bad ghost who is a bad person who hasn't transitioned. I'm susceptible to it. I'm open to it. I have a sixth sense. I'm psychic. I'm clairvoyant. This ghost is starting to harass me. It's gaining power. It's not only waking me up at 3 a.m. with its presence. It's starting to, you know, smash things and move things around. And so it was putting me on edge. It was making me uneasy, you know. And I had children there, so I'm like, man, what is this? Why is this ghost doing this? You know. So this would happen all the time. like some nights I would be sleeping and I would wake up to the sound of like, it sounded like a car crash in my living room or my bedroom. Wake up, nothing there. And I've experienced this a lot, so I know what it was. It's just the ghost is messing with me. It's making noises. Sometimes it sounds like it's dropping a box of pot and pans on the floor. And you wake up, there's nothing there. This is stuff they can do. But it's always happening around 3 a.m., the witching hour. And it's a bad feeling. I have an unsettled bad feeling. And I know this ghost is harassing me. I know it's messing with me. Anyways, one night I ended up having this dream. It was crazy. So I'm like at my house and I started having this dream. I apologize for the cameras bouncing because of the roads in America are shit. So I'm sleeping one night and I have this dream and I'm in my house. And I have a lot of out-of-body experience, and like I have things happen to me in my dreams that I know are like psychic connections, or I'm time traveling, or I'm like going to people's homes, or I'm seeing things like I'm going into the future and seeing things that end up happening. It's hard to explain, so I have a lot of out-of-body experiences when I sleep. So I'm sleeping, and I'm having this out-of-body experience dream. Like it's like I'm not even dreaming. It's like I'm dreaming, but I'm in my house. This little house I had on 40-something acres in the backwoods. And I'm walking through my house. It's dark, and I go in and I check on my family. They're okay. And the house was pitch black, but there was like. Remember on Lord of the Rings when Fredo, or what, you know, the Hobbit puts the ring on his finger. And he goes into that other dimension, and everything's like gray and wavy, and like he's underwater, and he's seeing those. He could see the guys, you know, the old kings with their swords. That's what it looked like in my dream. Yeah, what is this? Anyways, so I walk up to this guy. He's like a solid black figure, and I scare him. And he turns around and looks at me, and yet you can't see his face, you can't see his body. He's just a solid black figure. And I can make out a hat, you know, and he's wearing like a shirt, you know, he's like a regular looking person, but a solid black silhouette. So he's in my house. I sneak up behind him and I scare him because I'm going like, who is this guy, you know? And he turns around and he looks at me. Can't see his face though, he's solid black. And he starts walking at me like in this threatening way. Like get away from me. So I realized in my dream I had an out-of-body experience in my house, and I was able to go into to the other dimension where ghosts exist, and I was able to see the ghost that is haunting and harassing me and is going around my house doing weird stuff. Now where I was living at, it was an interesting place because it was in the backwoods. A lot of people grew pot out there. There was probably meth labs out there. There was a lot of rough, tough, like people, like bikers, and just really rough. There was a rough element out there. There was people with a lot of money that lived out there on nice property like we did. We didn't have a lot of money. We just got a really nice place on a lot of property. And then there was a rough element out there. So what I figured is that this ghost that I saw in an out-of-body experience in my house during this dream thing I had, he was the spirit. Psychically, I figured this out from what I saw in my dream, and because of where I lived at, I psychically figured out that, okay, this ghost that's in my house is a younger guy, is a man, I don't know, early to mid-30s, and somebody killed him. Maybe he was trying to rip off somebody's pot farm, or he was, you know, dealing with some bad people, but I realized that he was someone that was killed. He was a bad person in life, and he was a bad person as a ghost. He hadn't transitioned, and he was probably buried around my house, or maybe he was killed at my house by the people that used to live there. I don't know. Like I said, though, there was a lot of rough people in that area. A lot of people that you could tell that they didn't play around, you know. And there was, like I said, pot farms, everything around there. So I'm like, okay, this guy was whacked, and his ghost is haunting my house. So, as I said, weird stuff started happening. Like one morning, my wife and my son and my little baby girl, we were all awake in the living room. Now my wife, ex-wife, I know she attracted a lot of things because she was a bad person, but she was one of these people that never has had anything happen with the paranormal. So she wasn't like, if you talked about the paranormal stuff around her, she would get mad at you, especially if you did it in front of the kids. So like, I wasn't allowed to talk about it really. But me and my son, like on the side, you know, we would always talk about ghosts. He's like 4 or 5 at the time. We'd talk about Bigfoot, you know, like we would go look at try to find UFOs on the roof and stuff. I think that stuff's fun. Some people don't. So we're out in the living room one morning, and just out of nowhere, this smell of death, like something had died, like something was decaying and rotting, out of nowhere just appeared in the living room. In the spot in the living room. Everybody smelled it. Even my ex-wife, who was just a negative, nasty person that believed in nothing. Even she was like, something's dead underneath the house. You're going to have to go under there and see what the hell's going on. And I'm thinking, yeah, no shit. There's something died. I can smell it. But I'm like, why are we smelling it right now? And I know from dealing with the paranormal my entire life, ghosts will do shit like that, especially bad ghosts. They'll just out of nowhere produce like the smell of death. And that's what you could smell in my living room in like an area the size of a 3-foot circle. That's it. It was just in this area. Right as I was talking about going outside and checking to see if something died under the house, the smell went away. And I'm thinking, man, this ghost is getting pretty bold, you know? And the very next morning, my son wakes up early, and him and I are out in the living room, and he goes, Dad, look. And he had like a little setup with like, where he put all his toys, so he had like not a cabinet, but like, you know, like a thing you would set toys on, like a shelf thing made out of metal, like a real solid metal shelf that had a bunch of toys and robots and stuff were sitting on, and hanging on it were these hooks, and they were like metal hooks. My son would hang robots on them. They weren't real light. They're hanging from this thing, and they're swinging back and forth, and my son and I are like 15 feet away, and he goes, Dad, look. So these metal hooks are like swinging back and forth. And I'm like, whoa, shit. And I noticed the ghost did it. There's no wind coming through there. My son didn't touch it. He's standing over there with me. And there was just little things like that started happening all the time. And lights would be on in a room that you knew you shut the lights off. And just little weird stuff that you noticed. And what was crazy is my ex-wife was even noticing this, and as I said, she was somebody that just a negative person that believed in nothing, especially the paranormal. If you talked about the paranormal, she would yell at you, shut up, don't do that in front of the children. And even she was like, no, I know I shut that light off, or I did this, or I did that, and you know, the door was open, the lights back on, and the water was turned on, things like that. So I would, in the 3 a.m. wake-ups were getting bad, dude. Like it was happening all the time, dude. Some guy was driving hella slow. Anyway, so we ended up moving out of that house. Not because of that, but we just ended up moving out. The people that owned the house were going to sell it. I was real bummed out. I loved that place. But a lot of paranormal stuff started happening at the tail end of it. At the beginning of us living there, nothing real serious would happen, just the 3 a.m. wake-ups. At the end, stuff was happening all the time. My wife was hearing people walking around on the back porch, and she would walk out there, there's nobody out there. We're on 40-something acres, so it could have been raccoons or whatever. But, so my family moves out, and I'm still at the house. We've got about 2 weeks left. Before we got to be out of there, and I'm kind of doing the final touches and cleaning up the house. And so nobody's there but me, and everything's pretty much moved out. I'm basically like just cleaning everything up. So, long story short, I'm out in the living room sleeping one night on the bed. I moved a bed out into the living room. And I'm sleeping, and I wake up to the sound of somebody walking around the house. Like, you know how you could hear, not only, you know how you could hear footsteps. We had really short carpet, and it was wood floors, and the house was up on like 3-foot stilts, so it wasn't on the flat ground. So if you walked, you know, like if my son walked around, you could not only hear him walking, you could feel the floor, like, you know, bending underneath his feet, you know. And I wake up to the sound of not only hearing someone walking around my living room, but I could feel the floor moving. I'm going like, holy shit. And I'm like sitting up in the bed, you know, like looking around and going like, holy shit, I hear someone walking around my house and I can't see anybody. I can feel the floor moving. I can hear the sound of like, you know, like almost like pant legs rubbing together. This is bizarre. It's happening right here, but I don't see nothing. And I'm scared. I'm scared to death. And goosebumps all over my body. And I'm debating on whether or not I should get up, get in my car, and leave. And I'm going like, shit, it's scarier outside. You know, we're on 40-something acres in the backwoods. I'd have to get in my car, start the car up, drive to a gate, unlock the gate that has a lock on it. I'm like, I mean, something was telling me, like, I was in fear, like something was going to happen. You know how you, like, you know when you're scared or when you think something's going to happen to you. I was like, I felt safer staying in the house, even though there's an invisible ghost or something walking around my house. I could hear it, I could feel it. I hear the sound of his clothes rubbing. And I'm just sitting up in my bed tripping, you know. And all of a sudden, footsteps, the feeling of footsteps and the sound of footsteps and pant legs rubbing together start walking towards me. And I'm like, oh my God, dude. And it walks right up to me. And I could feel the presence of not only a ghost, but a very mad, pissed off ghost directing heat and anger at me. Like it wanted me out of there. And I almost jumped up and left, but like I said, I was scared to go outside. I was like, something said, just stay here and wait it out. So I'm sitting there like, holy shit. Anyways, I jump up and I turn on all the lights. I'm like, okay, I got all the lights on, you know, I feel a little bit better. So I open up my computer and I start making a video about what's happening to my house. I don't even know what I did with the video, and I'm saying, hey, I think there's a ghost in my house right now. Anyways, long story short, I uploaded that video to YouTube like 3 years ago, and people that were watching the video were seeing big red orbs in the background. Like there was stuff going on behind me. Like I wasn't tripping or making this up. And as I mentioned, I've had paranormal phenomena and poltergeist stuff happen to me throughout my entire life, so it was nothing new to me. But whenever I have that stuff happen to me, it's usually not a good feeling I get. I realize I'm dealing with bad spirits. I'm dealing with people that have been murdered, people that have committed suicide. Maybe sometimes it's demonic. This ghost that was in my house, I realized was someone that died. He was a bad person. And his spirit was bad, and he was harassing me. I'm susceptible to it. So I made it through that night. I stayed up all night, had all the lights on. And all night, even with the lights on, you could just feel a negative, bad, heavy, evil, hateful energy, presence, and frequency in my house. Like it threw me off, dude. I was like, this is crazy. So I stayed up until it became daylight, and I fell asleep like at 7 a.m. and I was able to sleep. And I wake up in the afternoon. I'm getting the house finished up, and there's nothing in the house really except the bed. I'm basically cleaning. So that before nightfall came, I was like, you know what? I had a game camera, and I was like, I'm going to take my game camera and I'm going to set the game camera up in the corner of the house, or like I'm going to set the game camera up in the corner where my bed is, but in front of the bed, so it doesn't get activated by me moving around. So the game camera, I mounted it to like a chair or something and put it in front of my bed. So the only way it could be triggered and go off is if something in front of me was walking around. And a lot of people, you got to realize, like, ghosts, from what I've figured out, they give off an actual heat, an actual energy. And that's why people can catch them on cameras and why people get pictures on game cameras. And I figured if there's a ghost in my house, which I know there is, this game camera, this is my game camera. I've been using it for the last year. I know how it works. I know what makes it go off. You know, I know all about this game camera. It's my game camera. I'm a professional at using it. So I set the game camera up, and I'm like, if there's a ghost walking around tonight, I'm going to get a picture of it. Or whatever it is in here. So that night, I set the game camera up. It's in front of me. It's facing the living room where I heard the footsteps. And because I was scared, ghosts scare me, especially bad spirits. I get scared of bad ghosts. I took a bunch of sleeping pills because I knew I would stay up all night scared that this ghost was going to come harassing me. And I wanted to fall asleep and so this ghost would be bold enough to start walking around my living room and my game camera would take a picture of it. So the game camera set up, I go to sleep, I fall dead asleep because I'm on sleeping pills. Nothing could wake me up. I wake up, it's like 7 a.m. in the morning. I jump up, I grab my game camera, I turn it off, I open it up, and I take the little chip out, and you put it into your laptop, and then you can look to see if there's any pictures on it. Sure enough, man, I put that little chip in my computer from the game camera, and it shows that the camera took a bunch of pictures, and I have the game camera set up so it gives you the time. The game camera started to take pictures. It was like 2:58. Next picture 3:04. Next picture 3:15. Next picture 3:21. So I had like 7 pictures, and all the pictures were taken at the witching hour, right around the 3 a.m. time. So I go to click on the picture so I could see the picture. My game camera was taking pictures at those exact times. And every picture I had like 7 pictures. There were big, huge, yellow, glowing orbs all over my house. Sometimes there would be 3 of them. Sometimes there would be 1 of them. Sometimes there would be 2 of them. And what was weird is my game camera was facing the living room, a big area, and the living room had a sliding glass door that went out to the backyard, in the mountains. And I'm out in the backwoods of the mountains. And you could actually see on the game camera with these pictures, as it was taking pictures, orbs coming in from underneath the sliding glass door, underneath the curtain, into my house, and the game camera's taking pictures. So I realized these ghosts, or this ghost, it's somewhere outside and it's coming in this way. The orbs were just the energy of this ghost, and that's why my ex-wife was hearing footsteps on the back porch. And so anyways, I captured all these orb pictures, and it was crazy because I was being haunted and harassed on and around 3 a.m. at the witching hour. And what's crazy is that this ghost and his orbs were so powerful and were giving off so much energy that it was triggering the motion detecting camera I had. It's a game camera that you set up outside to take pictures of deer and shit. It was powerful enough in giving off enough heat and enough energy to make the camera go off. That's how those game cameras work. They work on infrared. This infrared sets them off. So yeah, it was crazy. I had all these pictures of orbs, and that ghost, though, it was bold. It would for the next week and a half until I was done, I would stay up all night because I would try to sleep with this ghost. It was harassing the hell out of me. And everywhere I would try to sleep, I ended up moving into another bedroom. You would hear footsteps going down the hallway, and you would walk right up to me. and you could feel the ground giving way underneath it. You could feel the presence. You could sense it. And this is after I took pictures of these orbs at the game camera. And, you know, I would sit there and I'd be scared to death, you know, because I know something's standing in front of me. I heard it walk up to me. I could feel it standing there. I had pictures from a couple days ago of the orb of it. And, as I said, psychically, I realized it was the ghost of somebody that was killed and probably buried in my backyard, and he was harassing me. So anyways, that's just one of my ghost stories. I'll keep putting them out there. I hope you enjoyed that, Josh. I'm on a paranormal team with a cool motherfucker named Josh, and in the future we'll be putting up ghost hunting videos. So you guys have a good one. More videos will soon come. Peace.